Joining me is Dave Oswald, forensic accountant, investigator, and president of the Forensic Restitution, co-author of a recent corporate governance bulletin with Ralph Cuervo Lawrence called Greenwashing, Out with the Old, In with the New. Dave, welcome to the F Word.
Thanks, Indianna. Great to be here. And you're right, the green label has become almost unavoidable. You walk into a store and everything is eco, low emission, or carbon neutral. That imagery tells you you're making a better choice. But what is the reality? Not always. A lot of companies have started making environmental claims years ago, long before there were clear rules or data to back them up. And what began as a marketing trend has turned into a major compliance and credibility issue.
So this isn't just about bad advertising anymore. It's a governance problem.
Exactly. Greenwashing, overstating and misrepresenting environmental benefits is now seen as a serious issue. It misleads consumers, distorts markets, and actually penalizes the companies that are genuinely sustainable. When false claims flood the market, it's not a fair fight anymore. You're competing against an illusion, and that erodes trust in sustainability as a whole.
So that word trust comes up a lot in your article. You say it's the currency of the modern economy, but surveys show over half of Canadians no longer believe environmental claims from businesses. Why the breakdown?
Well, quite simply, it's because people have been burnt. For years, companies made big promises without the data or systems to back them up. Even certification bodies like B Corp have faced growing accusations of greenwashing. We're seeing a global wave of ESG-related litigation, especially in the US and Europe. Consumers, investigators, and regulators are asking tougher questions. Can you prove what you are claiming? And the answer, unfortunately, quite often is no.
So let's talk about that legal exposure. You mentioned that regulators are cracking down. What's changing in Canada and abroad?
Well, actually, quite a bit. In Canada, the Competition Bureau now requires that environmental claims be backed by adequate and proper testing and documentation. The EU is introducing green claims legislation that will ban vague or unverifiable environmental marketing. And in the US, the Federal Trade Commission is tightening its green guides for environmental advertising. On top of that, security regulators like the Canadian Security Administrators, CSA, and OSFI are pushing for detailed climate-related disclosures aligned with frameworks like the TCFD and ISSB. So the message is clear. Vague, feel-good statements just aren't enough anymore. If you can't verify it, then you probably shouldn't be saying it.
And boards of directors are being pulled into this too, right?
Absolutely. Directors have a fiduciary duty to ensure disclosures are accurate. Failing to exercise oversight on sustainability risks becomes a breach of duty. So it's not just the marketing team at risk. It's the entire governance structure.
So your piece with Ralph makes an interesting point that law and forensic have to work hand in hand around here. How does that partnership actually work?
Well, lawyers like Ralph help companies to understand the regulatory frameworks, what they're allowed to say, what disclosures are required, and where the legal landmines are. And then we come in from the forensic side, verifying the numbers, checking the data, and testing the claims against reality. It's one thing to say we reduced emissions by 40%. It's another thing to actually trace that reduction through procurement data, energy use, and production metrics. That's where forensics accounting comes in, turning sustainability from a marketing story into verifiable evidence.
You outlined two phases for companies, reviewing old claims and then building a roadmap for real sustainability. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. Phase one is the review of green claims. That means looking back at all your past environmental statements, many of which predate the modern ESG frameworks. You verify the claims against internal data, identify inconsistencies, and prepare documentation to defend them if challenged. It's not about blame, but it's about risk management. You need to know what you've said and what you can prove and what needs to be corrected. Then comes phase two, building a roadmap to real greenness. This is where companies set up a measurable environmental metrics, proper internal controls, and transparent reporting systems. It's all about ensuring that any future claims can be backed up with real data.
So we're moving from slogans to systems.
Exactly. Sustainability intelligence, not sustainability slogans.
That's pretty great. So you also talk about the importance of data. that it's about the core of credibility. You know, I love data. So please tell me, what kind of data are we actually talking about here?
Well, everything from emissions tracking and supply chain transparencies to waste and water usage, even renewable energy sourcing. Stakeholders now expect quantifiable, real-time, verifiable data. That means systems that capture performance automatically, not just once a year in a glossy ESG report. When sustainability data becomes part of the operational backbone, not a side project, it actually creates business value. You identify inefficiencies, reduce energy costs, and strengthen your supply chain. Sustainability stops being a reporting.
That's a powerful point, that this isn't just about avoiding risk, but seizing leadership.
Exactly. The companies that get this right will win. They'll have the stronger brand trust, better access to capital, and happier customers and employees. But trust has to be earned. The age of high-level pledges and fuzzy green labels is over. The future belongs to those who can prove what they say.
So if I'm a CEO listening to this and I'm wondering, are we at risk of greenwashing? What's the first thing I should do?
Well, you should start by auditing your claims. Put together everything your company has said publicly about being green, advertising, reports, social media posts, and then verify those statements against your internal data. If the data isn't there or doesn't line up, that's your red flag. That's where firms like Forensic Restitution and Macmillan LLP can help bridge the gap between compliance, credibility, and communication. The goal isn't to scare companies, it's to help them build something credible, defensible, and sustainable.
I think that's beautifully said, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us, for giving us the forensic truth behind the green facade.
Thanks, Indianna. Always a pleasure.
You've been listening to The F Word. Today's episode, Greenwashing. Out with the old, in with the...